It's weird, it's bizarre, it's creepy, and I love every single minute of it. Migi and Dali has released its first episode, and while typically I like to give at least a couple episodes worth of stuff before I do my first impressions, I can't help but just want to fire up the camera and start talking about Migi to Dali. This series is everything that I was hoping for it to be. Done by, of course, the creator of Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, Nami Sano, rest in peace. It just has that same aesthetic to it. It has that same style to it. And kind of throwing it into a mystery, which I'm really kind of intrigued by already, but yes, my thoughts on the first episode, so let's jump right into it. Migi and Dali opens up with a middle-aged couple that have never had a child of their own, but they've always wanted a child. And unfortunately, being the age they are, they can really only handle one child. And after going to this orphanage and just being in love with every single child in there, but again, having to force themselves to choose only one, they go to leave, and as they're leaving, they are captivated by a child named Hitori. Cut forward, we come to the day that Hitori comes to their home. They have adopted him, bring him in, take care of him, clean him up, give him his own room. Everything is looking fantastic. And this child is everything they ever desired. He's beautiful, he's polite, he likes to get involved with them and, kind of fulfill the dreams that they've always had with having a child. Like the father has always wanted to, lift the child up on their shoulders. The mom has always wanted to bake a pie with their child. All these things are fulfilling, and it's a great relationship. This is a family of dreams right here. But Hitori has a secret. Hitori is actually twins, Migi and Dali. So while the couple has always seen it as one child, in secrecy, there's always another one that's in the shadows. So if they're eating at the dinner table and one of them gets full, while they're distracted, he switches places. When the mother is showing him how to make a pie, the other one's always hiding behind the counter, taking down notes and actually speaking for him. This all seems to be for a purpose. When we cut back to the point when the couple came to the orphanage, they caught one major key point. This couple actually lives in Oregon Village. And that seems to be important to Migi and Dali. This is a place they really badly want to be for some reason. And yes, since they're only going to take one child, they have to essentially act as if one child. And everything seems to be calculated. Overnight, it seems like Migi and Dali are making plans for fulfilling every desire these parents have. Making sure that they're super happy is important to not lose this chance of being here. So my thoughts on Migi and Dali. I am absolutely loving this show. The aesthetic is just very, very weird. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, it has a strong feeling of Nami Sano. I loved Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto. For those who don't know what that series is about, it's essentially this guy, he's a classmate, and everything he does is super cool. So if somebody's bullying him and pulls his chair out from underneath him when he's in class, he just sits down in the air and looks so cool doing it. And you would think that most people would laugh at him because he's sitting there in the air, but no, he does it so cool-like that everybody's impressed instead of laughing at him. And it's so funny because when I watched that series, I thought the joke would get old. It's literally the punchline every single time is that somebody does something against Sakamoto or something happens around him and he just looks cool. And that's the whole joke, and it worked every time. And I'm getting that twinge with this show. It's got that sense of like whenever Migi and Dali does something, it's super cool and over the top. Like the opening sequence is literally this couple leaving, and they wanted to leave this last impression. So they chose to wait until they're going to leave and do some really cool things that capture them. And so yes, one of them pulls the hat off of the lady with a fishing hook and throws it up towards the upper window, and he catches it and looks so beautiful. And they get in the car and they're like, no, we can't choose based on look. He's a beautiful boy though. And they go to start the car and it's raining and they turn on the wipers, and then suddenly in front of them is the other one underneath an umbrella holding it over a dog, which is actually just clay. It just looks like a dog. It's just like all these little things that are just over the top but look super cool. And yes, the one part that had me busting out loud was a sequence of how they feed each other when they're at the dinner table. So yes, one of them eats their fill, and they're like, Mom, I want more of this rice. So they're preparing it, they're like scooping onto his plate, and as they're doing that, the other kid is underneath the table, and they like lock hands and lock feet, and they just do like this little flip in the chair. Just one of them like sliding underneath the table while the other one slithers under the chair. It's so weird, and it's great. It's literally Sakamoto, and I love it. I love that aspect, that doing something stupid and just over the top, but making it look so cool. And it's just great. And yes, technically, giving the father a massage and them taking turns while he's sitting there enjoying it. Or yes, one of them using their weight to distribute to pull the other one up when the father is holding him on his shoulders because he can't lift them. It's super dorky. But that's not it. That's not all the show so far really has me going for. Yes, another part of this is not just being that Sakamoto chemistry, the over-the-top cool, but at the same time being bizarre and weird. Migi and Dali are just creepy in a way. There's something about them that's super creepy. They're always like interlocked. Like everything they do is in sync. So yes, while one of them is taking notes about how to make a pie, they're the one that's talking. And the other one's actually baking the pie standing right next to him. Now there's a whole aspect of how does it not sound like it's coming behind a counter, but that's, again, you're looking too much into it. But it's still that aspect of like they're in sync because the other one is lipping it while the other one's talking and giving the information from the notes. It's got this weirdness to it. Every time they're alone, they got this up and closeness to each other. Like they have no personal space because they're like just so interlocked. Just taking notes and stuff like that in the middle of the night. They stay up all night just going over everything they've kind of learned because they got to make sure this is a perfect family. They're perfectly happy so they don't get kicked out. It's just like super creepy with like these really close-up shots of them close to each other and talking about things. It's weird. It is super weird. And I got that sense from the PV, and it's just kind of bleeding over in the show itself. I'm super intrigued by it. It's an unsettling, but it's a good unsettling. I don't know how to really explain it. But yes, obviously there's the big question mark as to what the mystery is. The opening shot shows a lady bleeding out. And my assumption is that that's probably Migi and Dali's mother because now they're in an orphanage. They never show them together with the mother, but what I'm kind of gathering is it's probably an aspect of that she was murdered and it was probably in this town, Oregon Village. That's why they were so dead set on going with this couple. And so they have to make sure that they're happy so they don't get kicked out of that family because they have something they need to look into. My assumption is that they are going to investigate what happened to their mother. So that's why they need these two happy. Towards the later part, they mention this idea that they're discovering a lot of things. They're discovering like the father has a bad back, the mother has a short temper. And yes, there was one other thing, which again, I'm assuming is the aspect of they need to go find out who killed their mother. So I'm really curious how that'll play into other things. The PV kind of gave me a lot of other things in here with like showing different dollhouses of different families and them going to meet those different families. And I'm curious how those might possibly interlock with the current family, or possibly they're going to embed themselves in other families. And then maybe those are the people that are involved with their mother's death. My assumption early on with the PV was this idea that Migi and Dali have some sort of supernatural ability to embed themselves in family. But so far with the first episode, everything seems logical and grounded other than the over-the-top nature of Migi and Dali switching places or whatever. By the way, I'm super intrigued, and if it can keep this up, I'm locked in. I'm already locked in. I love the aesthetic. I love the feel of it. I love the over-the-top nature of it. I love the creepiness of it, the bizarreness of it. Everything's great. There's even some really weird lines in there, like at some point because they have these turtlenecks, these black turtlenecks, and at some point they're like, do you want some new clothes? We can get you some new clothes. He's like, no, I would just like 2 sets of this clothes. I like these clothes. These are personal for me. And the mother just yells out, you are not Steve Jobs. You can have whatever you want. It's like, they're technically pulling off better than Steve Jobs did. But I got a kick out of that. But yeah, she has a very short temper. She was trying to weave the pie and then she cusses out. It's just, she's very weird. The mother's very weird. I think the deeper thing that I'm kind of curious about is just how the two of them are. I almost got an impression that the two of them really like the idea of being part of a family, but it's already given a clear idea here that Migi and Dali don't necessarily care about the parents. They're just feeling the parents. They're giving them feedback. They want to do these things with him, so he's doing it in order to keep the family together. They needed to secure their place in this house, and so they're feeding the parents what they want. But Migi and Dali seem to be very disconnected when it comes to relationship. It doesn't seem like they care so much about these two, which is, yes, makes sense early on because they just came to this house. It's not as if they're going to be, in love with the two of them as their parents. But I'm curious if that coldness is because of what's happened to them in the past, or if they'll actually open up to their parents at some point. But it seems like so far it's just them trying to keep this a secret that there's two of them. But yes, I'm super sold. I cannot wait for more. But yeah, Migi and Dali, if you guys aren't checking this out, definitely give it a shot. I'm already sold. I'm in love with it. And I cannot wait for more. Nami Sano, rest their soul, just is a very creative person when it comes to this kind of style and this aesthetic. And I like seeing this kind of shift over into the bizarre and the mystery aspects of their writing. It's just kind of a sad thing, because I glanced at my enemy list and it's like, oof. Do you people just not know what you're getting into when you clicked on this show or something like that? It's just a lot of people that are just like, what is this show for? And it's like, if you didn't get it from the first episode, you're not going to get it. It's an aesthetic, it's a style, it's an oddity, and it's really, really good for what it does. I just wish that it didn't affect the score. Like, it's under a 7.0, and it's like, this show is great. I'm not sure what you guys are doing. Hopefully that'll go up as it goes along and people watch more episodes of it that actually know what they're getting into, and the score goes up. But it is what it is. Like, we care about score sites. I just hate that idea that somebody's going to go look at Migi and Dali on Mal and go, well, obviously, trash show, I guess I won't watch it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the first episode of Migi and Dali. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment. Let me know what you thought of the first episode. Are you intrigued? Are you into it? Are you going to check it out? Let me know. I greatly appreciate you guys' support. If you like this content and you want to support more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel. I'll be doing first impressions of all the shows of the season coming up, so if you don't have time to check them all out and you just want to get my perspective on it, definitely stick around. Greatly appreciate it, and y'all take care.